Hello people, today's video will be a review on the new Star Trek Lower Deck Season 1 Episode 3. Please stay tuned. Hey people, it is time. I'm doing it a day after because, hell, it's hilarious. Oh my gosh, so let's get into the spoiler-free review. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to do anything like that. So let's get into this video. What I think about the episode was that there was a lot of humorous, funny jokes made towards Star Trek from TNG and other shows, basically. And what I thought of that was that it related so well. And it was like, what the heck? Like, come on now. Like, these episodes had you going, like, laughing and having fun. And, making it look like in your face type funny cartoon, skittish, all that. I think the characters were very good in this episode, in my opinion. And I was laughing my head off, laughing my ass off. Lame-o! But what I think is that the episodes are getting really good and really funny. And that's my spoiler-free review. Like, I have nothing else to say except it was hilarious. And I think that Mariner is showing out her true side. And you know how low Laren was, that she didn't want to follow Starfleet rules? Well, I think Beckett Mariner, you know, the black chick, you know, I'm saying that because I'm not being racist or anything, but she reminds me of Laren, who wanted to be herself, you know, and not want to follow rules and shit. So, yeah, that's a good iteration right there, but, yeah, we're going to get into that soon. So, let's get into the bread and butter, the episode of Season 1, Episode 3, Temporal Edict. So, the Captain, Carol Fox, or whoever her name is, she was going to go to Cardassia. She made up a speech. She did the dance, all that. But the Cardassians decided, we don't want nobody on our homeworld. Let's just go to Vulcan. And that pissed her the fuck off. Like, she's like, oh my god, I was going to do this, and they were going to notice me and shit. And now she had to go to the Crystal people, which I'm calling them the Crystal people, and give them gifts. Because the Admiral told her, say, I'm sorry. And she's like, this ship is, thinking like this is an idiotic ship and blah, blah, blah. She's thinking that Starfleet's downgrading her ship. And she's like, we need to be more stronger and stuff. And she goes and walks in the decks and stuff. And one of the ensigns say in front of her when she goes into the mess hall and says, what are you guys doing? You gotta do your work, like that. And they just run. She's like, she don't give us downtime. And he got pissed because she got pissed at this crewman. And the crewman, no, I didn't say anything, I'm sorry, and ran off. So now she's getting everybody on a time limit to do their jobs. And everybody's overtired, overworking, and she's like, the Enterprise does it all the time. Good reference to that. Good reference. And the crew's getting tired except Boimler, which he loves it. Which he's enjoying the whole thing. And Boimler's all rules and strict. He's the kind of captain like Janeway or Picard, basically. We'll get into more of what's going on. So, the crew's working frantically to get everything done. And meanwhile, Mariner, Commander John Ranson and an away team goes down to the Crystal people. And the Bolian, I forget his name, comes out of nowhere and brings this piece of wood instead of the crystal, and they get pissed off. And they capture them. John Ranson and Mariner were in a cell together, and the leader comes up saying, "You gotta fight in a ritual death combat." I was like, what? But when they were flying down, let me get into that. He tells Beckett Mariner, saying, "You need to put your sleeves down, this is not a barn." And she refuses. Totally low Raren style this girl is, and I'm telling you the truth, like, honest bare none. She's like low Laren, the Bajoran on TNG. So she refuses. She gets down, and she's like ignoring this commander, and this commander is like Riker. I'm telling you, John Ranson is like an updated version of Commander William T. Riker. And he's like, "Oh, you gotta do, like, come on now." And Beckett Mariner, while they're in the cage, because they had to fight, was telling him, saying, "You need to bend the rules. You're too strict. All this and this and that." And meanwhile, the Crystal people were invading the Cerritos, spraying graffiti, all this shit. And Boimler was there looking at it. And he's like, "I got a phaser," and he phasers them. He walks into the captain's thing. Meanwhile, on the planet, Ransom stabs Mariner in the foot. When Mariner was telling all her scars, that was a great reference to what she's been, her past and shit. She's got all these scars all over her. And all of a sudden, he stabs her in the foot, and he runs out and fights a guy and beats the shit out of him. And they let them go. Meanwhile, the Cerritos was being sprayed all in and out of the ship. And Boimler tells the captain, saying, "You need to have them do this, and that. Because you run a great crew. You're a great captain." And meanwhile, it's like, really, like, Boimler's telling this captain she's a great captain. You know, every captain does things differently. You know? So she tells everybody, saying, "Stop what you're doing, defend the Cerritos." And they defend the Cerritos, and they all leave. And meanwhile, the chief of security, Bolton, or whatever his name is, comes down and gives him the crystal, and the Crystal people apologize. And the captain calls Bomar in and says, "Hey, you did this, and that. I want to make it the Bomar effect." And he's like, "No, we need to have the rules and shit. I mean, I enjoyed it." He's like, "No, it's the opposite. People can do their job in the timely manner they see fit, and do their jobs, and do their thing, and have downtime." And he's like, "What? What about that?" He's like, "No, it's the opposite." And gives him a plaque, and then leaves. He leaves. They're in the corridor, right? And let me tell you, I see the Andorians, like, right next to where Boimler sleeps or whatever like that. They sleep in a corridor. And I'm like, oh my god, they're so good. Like, I gotta mention that shit too, but we'll get iteration. But I kid you not. He's like, this, and that. Rutherford said they're gonna forget about that in a few days. Starfleet's always making new rules and regulations. And then in the far future, we see a classroom full of students, even Borg children. And, you know, Borg children who have been disconnected from the collective. And she's talking about the Bomar effect. And then after that, shows a statue of him with a bird. And it was like, what? Like, so funny, dude. So funny. And then they show Miles O'Brien wearing the TNG uniform. I was like, holy shit. Like, Miles O'Brien is well known in the future. Like, what the hell has he been up to? You know, like, what? Oh my god, the jokes in this episode were hilarious. Hilarious. Because in one of the episodes, we see Tiana fighting the people and she's hissing. She hissed. Like, you hear her hiss. I'm like laughing my ass off because she kicked ass. She's a doctor, but she beat the shit out of those people, like the crystal people. I'm like, really? You beat the shit out of the crystal people? Hilarious. The jokes, everything was relation to TNG right off the bat. You can tell automatically. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I'll see you next week with another review of Star Trek Lower Decks. Have a great day. Hello, people. I'm back. I'm sorry I missed a little part that was hilarious as hell. And let me just say this, and this is the end of the video. Beckett Mariner was in sickbay, and she's getting her foot wrapped. And Ransom tells her, saying that, sorry, I got a notification. Saying that, you know, that's gonna leave a scar. And she's like, a sexy scar. They're like, yeah, sexy scar. And then, you know, Ransom's like, please let me know when you're about to do the report so I can pat my back. And she's like, what? And he's like, stabbing you with a battle blade is court-martial offense. And she's like, I'm not gonna do it. And he's like, okay. And they started to go, like, they liked each other. Like, they were about to, you know, kissy. But then Ransom backs up and says, you disobeyed my order to put your sleeves down. That's against regulations. And calls in security, and they're dragging her out. And she's cursing. She's throwing shit. She's throwing a fit in sickbay. But before that, Tiana says, you want me to remove those scars? And she said no. And she's like, you're a fucking scratching post. And walks away. She says the F word and walks away. But let's get back to what she does. She was throwing stuff, and he's like, you just landed yourself another day in the brig, young lady. And you know what? She said, I love the brig, man. I love the brig. Like, what? That was hilarious. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll see you next week for episode 4. Please subscribe if you're new, and hit the notification bell so you will not miss a new video.